Здравствуйте, коллеги. Хотел сразу сказать вам большое спасибо, и я восхищаюсь вашей силой воли, силой знаний, да. У вас хватило действительно тягой знаний, да. Хватило сил на то, чтобы вчера отлично отдохнуть, не сохранивши полностью силы, да. Но сегодня найтись, встать рано, позавтракать, и я смотрю, абсолютно свеженькие, абсолютно красивые, молодые, готовые к знаниям, и за это вам огромнейший респект. Кто еще не знает, меня зовут Василий Середа, я директор продуктовой компании «Вигідні». Я, честно говоря, думал, что за эти дни, сколько раз я говорил уже, наверное, меня все запомнили. Но получилось, что нет. На завтраке подошел один из коллег и спросил, случайно не таксис ли я. Вот. Да, говорю, я не таксис, кому нужен таксис, я его познакомлю, и сейчас меня зовут Василий Середа. Хотелось бы начать наше очередное мероприятие, наш Telecom Summit. Я думаю, что здесь огромнейшее количество людей, которые находятся здесь уже не первый раз. Для тех, кто первый раз, что мы, кто мы, я думаю, что это не только у нас уникальное мероприятие в рамках Украины, я думаю, что это уникальное мероприятие в рамках, в том числе, Европы. Потому что собрать в одном месте самых заядлых конкурентов, ну, это редко когда удается. Я думаю, что вы многие знаете о том, что, допустим, та же Cisco очень редко делает совместные мероприятия с Juniper. Они за это в Juniper есть? Нет, не будет. Там, точно так же зачастую не хотят давать общие доклады, например, Ekinops, как Gulczynski. Да? И поэтому я думаю, что действительно мы создали уникальную такую площадку, на которой, несмотря на многолетнюю жесточайшую конкуренцию, все эти производители, все эти вендоры могут прийти сюда и рассказать вам действительно в одном месте о том, что за этот год, который прошел, у них появилось новое, как они предлагают вам развиваться дальше, как заработать больше денег, как сэкономить наоборот на каких-то затратах, какие новые сервисы вам можно предоставить для своих клиентов. Вы знаете, зачастую я даже замечаю, как это уже несколько лет у нас происходит, что наши доклады, они действительно во многом опережают свое время, некоторые приходят и говорят: ну вот про то, что нам сегодня расскажут, конечно же, мы, может быть, не планируем внедрять вот прямо сейчас, вот завтра, да? Но мы, по крайней мере, понимаем, куда движется рынок и куда мы идем, где вот наше светлое будущее, к чему мы, в общем-то, придем. Я думаю, что там в дальнейшем мы услышим очередной доклад про SDM, да? Фактически на каждый год мы об этом говорим, что это светлое будущее к нам все ближе и ближе и ближе. Вот коллеги рассказывают, что оно фактически уже подошло. Вот, поэтому еще раз спасибо, что вы пришли. Я думаю, что вы об этом не пожалеете. Как обычно, в конце нашего мероприятия мы разыграем призы для самых усидчивых, для самых внимательных. Ну а следующим я хотел бы предоставить нашего первого докладчика, тоже ему огромнейшее уважение. Первым всегда выступать наиболее тяжело. Да, потому что люди еще немножко сонные и покушавшие. Да? Я хотел бы предоставить слово представителю компании Ekinops, которая стала для нас за последнее время действительно одним из самых стратегических партнеров. Потому что чем далее, тем более заказчиков и более провайдеров интересуются решениями DVDM, уплотнения своих оптических линков, наибольшей утилизации своих оптических линков, потому что как бы оптики построили уже достаточно много, теперь становится вопрос, как им наиболее лучше использовать эту самую оптику. Ну а по поводу компании Ekinops, я думаю, что это можно сказать, что это лидер в этой области. У них действительно прекрасное соотношение цена-качество. И самое главное о том, что в Украине, я думаю, это тоже один из лидирующих вендоров в данной тематике. И огромнейшее количество successful story, которые вы можете увидеть, которые вы можете узнать по Украине. Я думаю, Норберт дальше расскажет более подробно.
Спасибо большое, Валерий. Меня зовут Gulczynski, это компания Ekinops, которая управляет продукты так очень часто. Но с жалованием это будет все, что я буду говорить по-русски. Больше можем поговорить на ужине, потому что по технологии надо говорить конкретно. So, what I'm going to talk today is about Как это будет на просто, это просто давайте презентацию. So, when we are going to talk about new DWDM network and about company that we are coming from, I'm coming from, the company is called Ekinops. As it was said, we are quite strong and have good successful story in the Ukraine, but we are not so big like Alcatel, like Cisco, like Huawei. However, we are coming from France in the Lannion, and Lannion is kind of Silicon Valley for Europe. There you have Alcatel, there you have big Orange Labs, and there are many small companies who are very strong in the high-tech technologies. The company was created in 2003, and from that time we are quite successful. However, I don't want to exactly talk about the products, but more about the technology, because it's the principles. Not only for what we are delivering, but for almost every vendor. So what is special about DWDM network? Very often we thought that DWDM network are only for call, to send the traffic between big cities, between countries. It's not entirely true. We can split DWDM networks into big 3 segments. The first segment would be classical, long haul. So this is what has Telecom, what has Data Group, what has Kyivstar. You have connection between major cities. This is where you exchange the traffic, or this is the way how you get the connection to the internet on the international traffic. But then we have big segment, which is now becoming also part of DWDM. In the past, we were dark fiber, CWDM, is metro and data centers. When we have data centers, now the amount of the traffic became so high that it's not enough even fibers to put for every service. So we're not putting for every 10G dedicated fibers. We need something to aggregate it. So data centers, regional networks, the amount of the traffic generated by YouTube, Netflix, or similar services, video on demand, it's very high, and we need solutions for the high capacity. And the last one, mobile networks. Every one of us has in the hands mobile networks, that is 3G, LTE. The same, the traffic generated to the towers, to the, for example, Kyivstar, is so high that they cannot anymore afford radio links between the stations. They need the infrastructure. And again, to optimize this infrastructure, they heavily thinking now to use DWDM networks. So now DWDM is really technology from the access to the core, not only for the core. So the examples, every such kind of area of solution application have a little bit different requirements. So like for DWDM in the core, for sure we need to have possibility to work on the big distances. Because very often you need to send the traffic, for example, from Lviv to Frankfurt, from Kiev to Odessa, Kharkov. Sometimes you don't have intermediate sites. You cannot install equipment every 50, 60, 80 kilometers. Sometimes we need equipment installed every 200 or 300 kilometers. So we need that, and this has to be supported the equipment. We need the reliability. Again, very often equipment can be installed in the forgotten place, where it's not easy to access. So you need something that is reliable, and you know that you don't have to send engineer every week or every month to check something. And you need stability, because the core network is the infrastructure. And I like to always repeat that DWDM network is kind of like the road. Once road built, it's universal. It doesn't matter if you're going to use the family car, sport car, truck, diesel, benzene, or even in the future electric car. The DWDM network should be built the same way. Once built, this is the infrastructure that should last for 10, 20 years. So we just kind of few examples of these customers, and 2 of them you can know very well or free, which is Data Group with Omnilink, kind of very successful story, Telecom International, and Yandex. these customers decided to use our equipment for the core network in the different applications. Data centers. So what is the difference between data centers and the long networks? As I told you, the long networks, the main requirement is to have ability to send the traffic on the long distance. On the data centers, they will have different features. First, we need more modalities, scalability. In the data centers, we have racks, cabinets with very high dense equipment. So you need somehow easy to change this configuration of this equipment. You need something that is very efficient in the provisioning. Like in the core networks, once you set up the service, let's say between, again, in Frankfurt, this service is kind of for the long term. In data centers, you will reload the traffic because ISP strategy is changing quite often. It's very dynamic environment. So that's why for data centers, equipment has to be much more flexible, I would say. Support different configurations, support different capacities. Latency. Everyone today talks about the latency because there are so many switches, there are so many applications latency dependent, so equipment supposed to have very low latency. So this is again another list of our customers. The one should be here also Yandex and Akamai. I don't know if you heard about Akamai. It's again typical data center customer who has lots of the computing capacity. He needs the lots of the interfaces. I'm going to talk about that one more. And the last one, which is quite new strategy for carriers, and basically is the mobile operators, is the front haul and mobile back haul. So what they need? Again, the same features might repeat, reliability, scalability. But for the mobile networks, they need something new. Equipment that can be installed outside buildings. So data centers, core networks, this is the infrastructure for the long term. We have buildings, we have rooms, we can do it air-conditioned kind of space. However, for mobile networks, if you see, they have antennas around the cities, around the country. And very often it's just antenna and small container. And these containers are going to be smaller and smaller with a simpler and simpler infrastructure. So for backhaul networks and fronthaul networks, we need equipment which can work in the first extended temperature because it can work on the wall. So we develop special equipment that can work from -40 to +65. So in the most cases, doesn't need air condition. And it's not anymore standard -48 volts, but it's +24. Which is much easier to do with the backup battery systems. It's much easier to provide power connection to these sites, where the infrastructure has to be very much simplified. So this is about how we can define DWDM. But the main topic of the presentation is about the coherent. What is the difference between coherent and non-coherent? So if you're familiar with DWDM transport technology, we used to have, some time ago, 10Gs, 40Gs. These technologies were not coherent. The simplest kind of distinguish between coherent and non-coherent networks are if you have the networks with dispersion compensation or non-dispersion compensation. And non-dispersion compensation networks are basically coherent networks. Coherent is also meaning the way how receiver is working. We can say that in the 10Gs networks it was direct receiver, in coherent is indirect because you all the time comparing the transmitting signal and receiving signal, but not just going to the more details. However, the main benefits of introducing coherent networks is to make simplified and long-term strategy. Coherent technologies allow us much easier to go to the higher capacity. All these, this is kind of different modulations, but what I want to show, by changing the modulation scheme, we always getting something, but we are losing something. There's not always that we can gain everything at the same, playing the same game. So for example, if for us it's important distance, we're using less dense technology for the modulation. If we need the capacity, we can use more than. So for example, today, the most common 400G traffic is use this modulation. It's called dual polarization Cooper scale, phase modulation. And we can easily go to the 3,000 kilometers. What does it mean, these numbers? These numbers don't mean that you have one side 3,000 fiber and another side. No, it means that we can have DWDM network with a regular infrastructure, but up to 3,000 or a little bit more without regeneration. And this is another parameter. How I can define that my network has a good quality? We can define DWDM network by good quality because of the channel capacity. We can define network by the number of the amplifiers, and we can define the network quality by number of the regenerations. It's easy to build the network, let's say, from Lviv to Kharkov via Kiev, where to put the service, and this service will have to have regeneration in Kiev, in the halfway, but then installing the new service for the new customer, you have to buy twice more equipment. It will be more difficult to run the network where you have service from Lviv to Kharkov, and through Kiev, you passing through. It's called without regeneration. So very often you have to be keen and sure that you understand these numbers. This number, it means the maximum distance in the network without regeneration. But as you see, as more capacity you are putting, this distance is going shorter and shorter because the modulation, the sensitivity for the noise is less and less. What coherent technology allows in addition? Coherent technology allows in addition to change the grid. We used to use 100 gigahertz grid, so means that we have 40 channels or 80 channels on the network. In coherent technology, all transceivers and receivers kind of predefine, they have predefined the grid, but they can become very often and very easy modified to flex grid. Maybe you heard it about this word, flex grid, but flex grid, it means that we don't have any more standard distance between channels. We can make smaller distances. Making more dense system, it means increase the capacity. So coherent technology allows that one. So how this is possible? This is possible by mastering the technology. So this is what is strong about us. And very often you can buy, like for the 10G, XFEs. For 100G, you can buy CFEs. That they have always limited footprint, they have always limited vendors that you can claim. But when you have possibility to re-engineer this kind of optics inside the equipment, you can do some different things. You can go to different distances, you can increase the capacity, and the most important, you don't have to wait for the FISAR or similar companies when they're going to have the products. And like for the today 100G, there's only one company who is delivering CFP, DWDM coherent. So the secret of Ekinops is that we are doing this engineering inside the company. So if you are by chance going to visit Lanyon, by the fact this is the same area where the Asterix Obelix coming from, so you can take your kids. So you can see how it works, how we did it. You can see pieces of the hardware, and you can see which part what is doing. I will just explain you. But so what is strong with the Ekinops, that we develop the products, physical products, that fit different applications. I was talking about the core, I was talking about the regional or access backhaul. We have separate products with different features. We started from that one in the 2012, which is very compact, very small, but it was used for exit network. And then we have bigger scale with the modularity. So basically, you are going from access, metro, regional, long haul by one product family. One product family, but different products. Again, it could be used on the one product for all these applications. Long haul product can work in the regional, it can work in the access. But that will be no price efficient, and it's always, we are driven by customers. And as customers, they always want to have the cheapest solution. So therefore, we have to have this division in the product, that one is added to the one segment, another one is added to another segment. But our application, coherent technology, I believe it was the first technology that enabled something different to do with the network. Use existing networks. We used to think that once I bought something, I have to be connected to this vendor. It means that if I bought the WDM network from the one vendor, I have to keep relationship with that vendor for some reasons. We used to think that if I bought the one generation of the DWDM network, if I want to have the new capacity, I have to upgrade this network by new software, by the new controller, by the new shell. With coherent technology, we prove many times that it's not true. This is what I was telling to you about the road. Once with the road is the universal and can be used in the longer term. So, with coherent technology and by us with a very compact product, because that was another key to success. Having small product, it was no big effort to give you some extra capacity on the top of your existing infrastructure. It doesn't mean to build a new cabinet, half of the new rack, half of the cabinet, the equipment, high power consumption. It was just putting some pizza box to increase the network and to send the traffic over existing network on the long distance. And how it works in the practical way. Even here in Ukraine, when I started to work, I had a story that customer asked me, I have the WDM network, but it's used in 80%, 90% almost on the all links. And therefore, I'm thinking to make the new tender, to build a new core network. And this network was for 40 channels. It's great to have the tenders. It's great to have new such projects. But we all know that it's kind of big work for everyone. For me to design this network, for customer to have the new vendor in the company, and to train them, to install. And then I have the question, why do you want to do it? And why would you like to do it? When you have infrastructure that everyone understands, your engineers or you as yourself know how to use equipment. Very often you know this equipment better than the company sold it. So we offer them that when they had some traffic already occupied, we say that without changing anything, we can turn off 10 channels and put only one new channel with a 10 times higher capacity. And let's look, we increased the capacity of the network without changing core infrastructure. So it means that again, something that worked for a long time, it's going to keep working. You can might ask, but well, I don't have any much support because maybe the product line is end of life, some spares. It's true, but in fact, if something's supposed to be broken, or usually not broken, maybe you have to have for the end-of-life products more spare parts, but still you don't need the support because again, you have so much experience by using one thing by 10 years that even your support company that is providing to you the support service doesn't know all secrets. It's like again, driving by one car for the 10 years. You will usually know this car better than going to every time to the workshop, to the mechanic, and explaining him what doesn't work again, because you physically know every behavior much quicker. And if you have some mechanic skills, then basically you could even fix yourself. So it's the same with the WDM network. By using experience that you gained, and by adding on the top the new capacity, you can extend the life of the network. Very inexpensive way. And this is just the proof how we did it. You can find here the list of every vendor, Siena, Alcatel, Huawei, Lucent, Nokia Siemens, which is Coriant now, Infinera, Cyan, BTI. But this is the list of the vendors. Now some kind of what we like, interesting engineering applications. The success, or the first trial that we did in the 2013 year, it was between Halifax and Manchester. It was DWDM submarine cable built by Huawei. The system was built by 40 G channels. And when Huawei was talking to them, well, they say it's not possible to upgrade, or it will take time because you are already our customers. So basically, we don't have to focus on you because you are our customers, dedicated to us. You don't have choice. You're not going to dig the submarine cable. Once the submarine cable was laid, they thought that they're kind of chosen for forever marriage. But then we proved them that it's not true, and in the 2 hours, we managed to connect 100G between Halifax and Manchester. It was 5,700 kilometers without regeneration. Another interesting case, now we have Lviv and Frankfurt, is that we can combine 2 networks. And we did it the first 100G connection between Ukraine and Germany on existing system that was 10G. The third interesting case is that very often when you have 2 DWDM systems, let's say here we have Cisco, here we have Nokia Siemens, very often we used to make some kind of estimation that when you have one management system, another management system, you have to have full regeneration. It means that if customer wanted to have 100G service from this point to this point, he had to have 100G module here, 100G module here, there, and on the last point. So basically 400G units, which with the higher capacities became more and more expensive. It wasn't the case for 10G, it wasn't the case for 1G, but for 100G you don't want to make such price overpaid. And this will be the same for 200G and 1 terabit in the future. And then we proved that even between 2 different systems, you can go without regeneration. Basically what we connected here, it was a set of amplifiers. Of course, on the both systems, we used the same channel, but again, making transmission between Toronto and Newark, we used only one pair of the equipment, half of the price, by thinking out of the box. And why it was possible by us? Because for us it was one RU. For Cisco, making even communication to the last point, it meant to put the full equipment. So it was 15454, which is again half of the cabinet. So then again, the cost even to do it for such classical approach vendors is very high. So I was telling to you that we have products which are dedicated to different applications. They have different parameters, and the main parameter defining if the product can work on the short distance or long distance is OSNR. So for the long distance, I need very high OSNR, or basically low OSNR. But for the short networks, the OSNR can be very high. So we make such difference in the performance, and this is basically how we can add this product by different applications. Second thing that is very often kind of neglected, that people don't think about that one. Very often, the first question you ask, what is my equipment capacity? And that is very wrong questions, especially for data center. Because it doesn't matter what equipment has the capacity. The correct answer is, what is my kind of equipment density per RU, and what is my power consumption by port. Because I can say I have capacity of equipment, let's say 100 giga. I can say that my equipment has 1 terabit. But this equipment can have 40 RU size. It's nothing, or it's very big really. What if you're going to have equipment which has low capacity, you might say, but by per RU, you're getting very high capacity. So we used to say that, for example, On this product 100G, today, in the equipment which is 2 RU, I can put 20 times 10G. It means that when 1 RU, I have 10 times 10G. And this is real number that we were looking for data centers. Because in data centers, you're going to pay size of the cabinet or per power consumption to your equipment. So again, if I can say that my power consumption per 10G is 10 watts, 1 watt, this is the number that we are looking, not the capacity per equipment. And the interesting numbers that you can see here are like the last module, 200G. With the 200G module, per 1 channel, it means that if you have 80 channels network, we can do it 16 terabits. And this module is very compact, and still in the 2 RU, I can have 40 ports. In 2 RU, 40 10G ports, and 2 times 200G ports. You will not find such dense equipment on the market. And this is just examples how this module looks like. So basically the module is smaller than this kind of label, half of that size. And this is just the last example, the 200G. So here you can see 2 RU equipment, 40 10G ports, and the 2 200G ports. This is exactly dedicated for the access networks, for the data centers. On this equipment, it's much cheaper to connect this than to buy DWDM filter, 40 optics, such as amplifiers, because here you have service management. So very often you think, no, I don't need a high capacity. In fact, for every data center or for everywhere where you need more than 1 10G, you might mislead yourself that you don't need it, but sometimes this is more efficient and provide more features than you think that this is only for Telecom or for tier 1 operators. So, okay, this is just more examples of data centers, how this can be done. So anyway, very short. Thank you very much for your attention. If any questions, I'll be happy to answer here or around the lobby.
Я хотел бы сказать, что, чтобы все понимали, знаете, что DWDM это очень дорого и очень сложно, оно нужно только таким большим компаниям, как Data Group, да, о чем Норберт тоже говорил, нет. К сожалению, не знаю, почему Норберт не сказал о других конкурентских компаниях, которые используют данное оборудование, и которые не такие большие, да, потому что у людей сложилось некое впечатление, что Ekinops, там, активный DWDM, это очень дорого, и только для больших провайдеров, как Kyivstar, Data Group, там, Telecom.
Znaczy, no prawda, u nas first the UK is very strong country and we have lots of activity, not only with Data Group, but exactly MacCloud, which you had.
Я вот как раз хотел добавить, если можно, да?
Конечно.
Что, смотрите, есть возможность, кроме того, что, знаете, всегда есть, опять же, недоверие от того, что там вендоры о чем-то говорят, каждый из них говорит, что он самый лучший, самый хороший, самый там дешевый, уникальный и так далее, да? Я думаю, что, опять же, наша мера тем, что вы можете не только поговорить с вендором, да, и послушать его мнение, какое его решение, да, естественно, будете его всегда хвалить, но вы можете здесь встретиться с потребителями уже этого решения и спросить, а правда ли то, что сказал Норберт, или неправда? Да, соответственно, я вижу как минимум двоих здесь, кто использует это оборудование. Вот Александр из компании MacCloud, он может рассказать правду, нравится ему оборудование Ekinops или не нравится. К сожалению, здесь нет Юры Скрипочки, который мог бы рассказать, тоже не использует оборудование компания Fjord. Вот, и это как бы не все компании, достаточно в Украине много, и это не очень большие провайдеры. И они нашли для себя это решение, они им довольны. Оказалось, что экономически выгодно покупать это оборудование, поэтому не стесняйтесь, приходите, спрашивайте, посчитаем, а дальше уже ваше решение использовать это оборудование. Еще раз спасибо, Норберт.
Спасибо вам.